For years, we have treated governance as the guardrail, a necessary brake to keep innovation from going off the road. But in the age of intelligent systems, that mindset is no longer enough. Because when AI makes decision that affects people, market and entire economies, compliance alone cannot guarantee controls. Rules can tell us what not to do, but only stewardship can ensure that what we build continue to serve the purpose we intended. This episode is about the transition, that specific transitions from reactive compliance to strategic ownership, from ticking boxes to building trust as a system's property. AI risk management succeeds only when it becomes a leadership discipline, not a regulatory chore. It's when board and the chief risk officer begins to ask not just about are we compliant, but are we aligned? Are we accountable? And are we safe to scale? In this video, we'll distill insights from across the journey we have taken, from framework like NIST AI RMF, ISO 42001 and EU AI Act, to tools like AIF 360, ML flows, Presidio, Guard Duty AI, etc., and real world sectorial case studies across banking, insurance, and large scale digital ecosystems. We have explored how these layers come together to form actionable governance levers, clear maturity milestones, and board level mandates designed for high impact regulated enterprises. Compliance answers the question, did we follow the rule? Stewardship asks, are we shaping the future responsibly? In a regulated sector like BFSI or insurance, the difference determines resilience. Because AI is not just a model anymore, it's the heartbeat of decision making, customer trust, and systemic stability. A flawed algorithm can move markets, a biased data set can deny credit, a governance gap can shake investor confidence. And yet, the same technology, when governed well, can unlock unprecedented transparency, speed, and intelligence. So, for today, we go beyond the framework. We connect policies to platforms, intent to implementation, and principles to performance. We'll unpack what strategic stewardship looks like in practice, how organizations define autonomy thresholds, maintain frontier model registers, and run AI incident disclosure regimes, and treat transparency as a capital. This is the future of AI governance. Not static control, but living systems of oversight that evolves with the technology they monitor. Now, if you are a board member, a CRO, or a technology leader working in high stake regulated environment, this episode is your roadmap to designing AI governance that is suitable, adaptive, and aligned. Because real success of AI risk management won't be measured by how many audits we pass, but how confidently we can say our intelligence is accountable, our systems are aligned, and our innovation is trusted. Welcome. Welcome to this series. This is the part 9. We are now in the module of strategic and governance recommendation. Namaskar. This is your host Savit Vittal Salian. Let's start this journey. AI risk management succeeds only when it transitions from reactive compliance to strategic stewardship. Reactive compliance is like checking the boxes. Strategic stewardship is shaping behaviors and outcomes. Let's try to understand this in detail. The minimum viable governance stage, that's reactive compliance. This is where most organizations would start. AI risks are handled after deployment, wherein teams rush to document model cards, bias reports, or privacy assessment to meet our local or global regulatory deadlines. This is where controls are fragmented, owned by compliance, but not by the business or the product teams. The question here is asked is, are we compliant with the rules rather than are we in control of the outcome? The result, the risks becomes reactive, governance is superficial. Issues are discovered only after harm or audit findings occur. Now, does that ring a bell? It's like wearing a seat belt only when a police car is nearby. So you're technically compliant but strategically unsafe. Whereas in a strategic stewardship phase, that's where the mature governance stage, wherein stewardship means owning the long term consequence of your AI decisions. It treats governance not as a friction but as infrastructure for trust and resilience. It's a strategic AI risk program which embeds risk thinking at design stage before data collection or any model training occurs. It aligns AI purpose with the organization's mission and societal expectations. It tracks autonomy, alignment, and accountability as board level metrics. It uses frameworks like NIST AI RMF or ISO 42001 to define continuous improvement loops. It views audits, explainability, and fairness not as a control but as assurance that asset that protects reputation and enables scaling responsibly. The result of which is AI becomes a trusted capability, not a regulatory liability. And governance evolves from don't break the rules to advance responsibly. It's like transitioning from a traffic cop to a city planner. You are no longer just enforcing the limits, you are designing systems that keeps people safe by design. For the board, the strategic imperatives are to define AI risk appetite and accountability, establish a formal AI risk appetite statement covering bias tolerance, autonomy thresholds, explainability requirements, and acceptable drift levels. The next imperative is to assign accountability by design, wherein each AI model has an identified owner, a validator, and a risk officer. And finally, integrate the AI risk into the enterprise risk register and quarterly board risk dashboards are in place. The next is to embed AI risk into the core governance structure. You need to extend the board's risk committee mandate to explicitly include AI risk out, outside oversight. You need to form an AI ethics and subcommittee for safety, which is shared by the CRO or the CDO, and mandate quarterly AI risk posture reports summarizing any biases, any drift, incidents, and any regulatory exposure the organization would have. Required to have a model decommissioning plan, which should be part of every approval gate. The next is to have an institutionalized independent validation. This is done through three line of defense, wherein the model owner builds and documents. The risk officer provides an independent challenge to it, and an internal audit which looks at the effectiveness of the design and the operation aspect for assurance. This require validation before every major retrain or architecture changes occur, thus aligning validation criteria with the SR 117 or ISO 23894 or the NIST AI RMF, whichever the organization is aligned to. The next is to mandate explainability and human in the loop for critical AI. If there are one, few things that need to be factored in. There should not be any automated decisions that affect rights, credit, health, or liberty. It should bypass a human judgment. That means human judgment requires to be in place by design. The board policy should be to explain or escalate. There should be document providing the explainability and its artifacts before anything goes live. The next is demand transparent reporting and public trust signals. You need to publish annual responsible AI reports, which includes or which should include metrics like fairness, energy footprint, incident statistics, and alignment scores. You are required to join sectoral transparency coalitions. Could be anything that is relevant, aligned to your organization. Here, transparency converts risk into reputational capital. Next is to integrate cybersecurity, data, and AI governance together. You need to converge ISO 27001 or 27701 or 42001 and NIST RMF together. You need to maintain unified inventories, which include data sets, models, controls, and regulations. And you need to conduct joint tabletop exercise for AI related cyber incidents. Example like prompt injections or data leakage. Next is to operationalize continuous monitoring and incident response. You need to implement assurance as a code. You need to automate bias and drift. So there should be some form of a control and a design in place where you can provide an assurance that biases and drifts are controlled, identified, in case goes beyond a particular tolerance, should be automatically escalated. Robustness checks should be within the ML ops, not as an afterthought, not bolted in. You need to integrate alerts with your GRC platforms like ServiceNow, Archer, or Metric Stream. You would require to maintain a 24/7 AI incident registry with root cause analytics in place. You need to define the mean time to risk remediation. Generally should be less than 14 days for critical AI incidents or lesser. Definitely not more than 14 days. You need to plan for frontier model oversight by maintaining separate governance track for Gen AI and autonomous systems. You require capability based classifications. You need to introduce alignment scorecard and red team report as per release gates, and need to participate in multi-party safety evaluation alliance or regulatory sandboxes. You need to cultivate responsible AI culture and talent. You need to do that by embedding AI ethics and governance in leadership KPIs and performance reviews. You need to launch cross-disciplinary training, including risk, data, compliance, or design aspect. You need to recognize AI safety champions in every business unit and reward teams for safe innovation, not just rapid deployment. Next is to collaborate externally. You need to join industry consortia for shared model evaluation, red teaming, and incident disclosure. You're required to advocate for harmonized global AI standards to avoid any regulatory fragmentation and exchange anonymized incident data for systemic learning. Do note, if you are exchanging, you also get it back. The overall idea is to bring the knowledge to a level wherein an experience of the other party benefits you. So it's a give and take. So how should be the model? How be? The governance model, the first part is board of directors, which constitutes your AI risk and ethics committee. Then you have the CRO CDO office, which has the AI risk officers, model governance lead, security privacy head, and compliance partners. Do you have it within your organization? Large or small? But there would be roles here. Smaller organization might club few or all of them into one or two. Larger organizations recommended to have this. You can govern it smoothly, else a conflict might happen. At a business unit level, definitely a model owner, a data steward, and a risk champion, and an independent audit, which helps validate and report to the board for any compliance or non compliance. The model, the RASI would be the model owner and the data stewards are responsible. The CRO or the risk officers are accountable parties. The legal and the compliance and ethics board are your consulted party, and the board, the regulators, and the public shareholders are your informed party. That's how a RASI would look like. From a policy and oversight instrument perspective, from a policy perspective, you have AI risk policy. Document here are defining the or are required as defining governance scope, risk taxonomy, and appetite. From an oversight mechanism, you can have this through your annual review by your CRO and board. From a model validation standard perspective, you have testing, explainability, drift controls. And oversight is independent validation and audit. You can check around this. From a data governance policy perspective, you have source integrity, consent, and retention aspect. An oversight is DPO reporting or privacy audit. The next is all AI incident response plan, wherein you document detection, containing, notification, and learning. The oversight mechanism is incident registry or a 72 hours reporting based on the industry that you come from. From a policy perspective, the next is transparency framework. You need to have a public model card or a RAI report. The oversight mechanism is ethics committee sign-offs, which would declare whether you have that in place and in the right order. From a vendor AI risk checklist perspective, you have third-party risk attestation and annual vendor audits. Do note the different policy areas that I discussed, the document that I discussed here, and the oversight mechanism. These are all discussed as part of this video series. This is your 9th video. So there are 8 videos prior to this which covers this in detail. So if you have directly come to this video and want to know what this really means or looks like, you have to go through my earlier video to understand the context and the content. It provides you, helps you with checklist, details, explanation, case studies. Finally, the takeaways, the 5 key questions. Are our AI systems aligned with our mission and values? That's the question that you should be asking. Who can veto deployment if risk exceeds the tolerance level of the organization? What real-time evidence shows our controls are working in real? Can we explain our AI decisions to regulators and customers? Can we isolate or roll back any model within minutes? Now do note, this question ideally should be asked by every model owner, every business owner who has an AI model running with them. If the answer to it is no, then you need to work on it and get in place. Because if the model owners or the business is not asking, the leadership need to ask this to the model owner. If the leadership is not asking, then the highest body in this would be the board. The board is required to, because if the board is not asking this, the leadership of the model is not asking this, the model owners are not asking this, then guess what? The regulators, when they come, they will for us for sure. So, at what level are you asking this question makes a big difference on how successful your governance is in managing your AI space. With this, we come to the end of this part of strategic and governance recommendation. I hope this has helped you in some way. If so, do share it with your colleagues who you think can benefit. Do like and subscribe for sure, it helps us. So, thanking you, we end this strategic governance and recommendation part of the video and move to the last part of the series, which is conclusion and a 5-step blueprint building a sustainable AI risk culture. Thanking you, this is your host Savit Vittal Salian. See you in the last part of this series. Namaskar.